that brings us nicely to the film that we're discussing this week, and not how I've been naming it all week, Hold My Hand. It is, in fact, Talk to Me. Talk to Me is by two Greek Australians, Danny Philippou and Michael Philippou. They are, in fact, not only siblings, but they are twins. And in the same way that Chris Struckman has now made his first feature, these guys came from YouTube, and they have a theatrical makeup and a practical effects background, and they basically were doing YouTube shorts with a sort of horrific nature to them. This film was shown at Sundance this year, and there was a bidding war. And of course, A24 being A24, snapped it up and put it in the cinema. So I saw a trailer for this a few months back, and we text each other trailers, don't we? And I was I sent it with the full gusto of a new A24 film, but I thought, does this one kind of look a little bit Blumhouse? I thought to myself, I'm intrigued and I trust A24, so I believe Tim should know about it. However, you know, the way that Blumhouse has like a crux and then it spins its wheels and then a film ends sort of thing. Like, you don't know what you get with Blumhouse, whereas A24. So this might look a little bit like that.
Yeah.
But my goodness. Oh, it should be said as well that this comes from who did the Babadook? It comes from the same production company that did the Babadook all the way back in 2014. And is it Skydance? I think it's Skydance. And then A24 is the distributor on this as opposed to the production company.
But Skydance, is that Tom Cruise's company?
Is it really? I don't know.
I believe it is.
I couldn't tell you.
I'm gonna look it up. Please
do.
We'll do just that. No, they just worked together on Mission Impossible.
It also has Sophie Wilde, who I've not seen in anything else before this, not recognizably anyway, who takes the lead. We have Miranda Otto, who is from The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina fame. And she was fantastic in this. And then an ensemble cast of Australian actors.
Well, as we texted yesterday, I had heard that it was going to be kind of a scary type of environment. And I was nervous going in. As the showtime was approaching, there are certain movies, like, I remember feeling this way about The Evil Dead Rises, a little bit nervous because I heard it was like very scary.
There was this beautiful symmetry whereby I was just coming out of the cinema as you were just going into the cinema.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, have you watched it yet? And you went, no, I'm a little bit scared. And I went, it's warranted. It was just warranted, full stop. And then I was just sitting there waiting. I was like counting down 2 hours until I could ask you about it. I was so excited. I was sorry, go on.
Yeah. So this little text exchange happened. So now I'm like more scared because like I'd heard it's scary, and then you're like basically confirmed my fear of going in. I thought this movie was great. Like, great. I loved this film. It was very scary. I love movies like this where it's scary, and I love when they don't have known commodities in the acting.
Yes.
Like, like, because that can take you out of it. Sometimes, like, there are points at which I was taken out of the Scream movie.
Yeah. I've not seen
because
that
of like, it's very good. But I mean, there are points.
I've not seen any of them.
No way, you've never seen Scream?
Never seen any Scream films. No.
Oh my god, dude, you gotta see those. Anyway, we should do like a whole Scream episode where we watch all the Screams. But that one, it's got like known actors. It can kind of take you out of it. The fear is partly in the anonymity of the actors, because you never know like who's going to eat shit, because you don't know. If like Courtney Cox is in it, she's not going to die. She's going to be the hero. And so, like in the Scream movies. So this was great because it had no actors I'd ever seen, but great performances, like really, really visceral, raw, nuanced performances, and a conceit that is truly terrifying. I thought it was just great. I loved it from start to finish.
I fucking loved it, mate. This is in my top 3 films of the year, and I don't know what order I'd put them in. I'm not going to say it's my best film, but when I say that out loud, even to the contrary, it excites me. I've not been so enthusiastic since Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. Again, another Gen Z film that you're included, you're invited into this world. In a sort of backhanded compliment, I felt Sophia Wilde, the main character Mia, she was in a Hollywood film, but the rest of the characters were almost kind of found footage. It had that verisimilitude about it. It had, it felt, it was happening. It didn't feel like I was watching a film until the Sophia Wilde thing. However, the backhanded compliment was that she was experiencing something very different to the rest. Now, I'm not saying it was intentional, but she had that Hollywood sparkle about the film she was in, where the rest of the characters were very much independent film. And that duplicity between the two it just worked so well because it created this clear separation between the focus and the experience of the film. Let's not understate the monkey's paw, the monkey's claw, the Ouija board, the Book of the Dead. This is a very well-trod trope. This is a very, very well-trod plot vehicle. But nothing about this when I was watching it made me feel like I'd seen it before. It was fucking exceptional in execution, in writing. There's so many parts of this where, and this is probably why Evil Dead Rise worked, that it wasn't afraid to flip it, but it did sort of tread a path that's expected of that sort of film. This, again, 90 minutes. Oh my God, thank you, horror films in 2023. Thank you. 90 minutes. Evil Dead Rise again, 90 minutes. This is all it needs. And do you know how I get wriggly in the seats? Notoriously a nodder of off.
Yeah.
But I get to the hour mark and I think, oh, I'm just going to nip to the toilet. I don't even need the toilet. I'll just go and have a quick vape in one of the cubicles and then I'll have a sit down wee because, you know, I'm posh. And then I'll just do it almost for argument's sake. But in this, it got to the hour and I did actually need to go to the lavatory. But I was frightened of missing something of this film. I was frightened of missing a part. This kept me gripped. And it's not, the jump scares were a minimum. They used maybe one or two in the opening exchanges, but it wasn't the bump. Do you know what I mean? It was the camera turns and then it shows you something and you push back in your seat and you grip the armrests. Oh, what this is just, I'm just in, honestly, mate, I'm in revels, I'm in rapture about this film.
Me too.
The thing is, we've said sort of jokingly that we're not a horror film podcast, but it seems that when we do one of the tentpoles, and by the way, we were supposed to be doing the Marvels for the podcast, and this was going to be the backup film. It feels that every time it's a horror film, whether it's Infinity Pool, whether it's Evil Dead Rise, whether it's, well, God knows what else we've covered in the last. And one of our biggest performers, every week, we still have views on our Halloween episode from last year. Every week. It is probably in the top 10 viewed ones, where I think we did Barbarian, we did Bodies, 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 and we did Halloween Ends. That still gets views. It's wild, mate. The creativity in taking such a well-trodden path, and that's in the benefit of the cast, in the crew, in the writer, director, sort of partnership of the twins. Wow, this film blew me away.
Totally. And I noticed that the film, unlike a lot of your conventional horror, October horror movies, does not in any way depend on the jump scare.
Not at all.
Not at all. It's not that type of movie. It's very careful. Its point is not so much to scare you. I think its point is deeper. It's like a meditation on grief. And you can tell this because the first, other than the opening sequence, that probably like 3 or 4 minutes long, the first third of the movie is really all about developing the characters and their relationships to one another. And it invites you into this almost literally a room, but more figuratively a room where you're seeing the kids interact with one another. And there's such a genuine, a clarity to it. It really is, like you said, there's verisimilitude to the way in which these kids interact with one another. Like you can, even though it is set in 2023 or whenever it's set, like this is the way that we interacted with our friends back in the day. It's like 100%. You go in a room, you try to avoid the parents, like all sorts of fucking weird shit happens. And there's like, there's such a nuance it felt so real, their interaction with one another. And the first third of that
100%.
film is like building all that up to the point in which they bring out the hand, the monkey's
Yeah,
paw, the
yeah,
Ouija
yeah.
board, right? The scares are in service of themes as opposed to its point being to scare you.
Mm. Let's say even if we don't make the episodes, most weeks we have films that we at least let's say every other week because we have the comic stuff as well. When I text him and said, "Have you seen it yet?" My impatience to hear what he thought about this film afterwards was greater than almost any film that we've done for this podcast. There was no unnecessary brutality. This wasn't a slasher film. It wasn't like in Evil Dead Rise. It balances the familial drama. Sophie Wilde's character Mia, her mum's recently deceased. She's questioning whether it was suicide or was accidental overdose, and she feels like her father has hidden things from her. The same with Miranda Otto's character Sue, who has a son and daughter in the film. Not hers, but the character. You always have when you were a kid. It's not even like your parents get on that well, but you're so intertwined with another family that you feel like a part of it, and vice versa.
Yeah.
Like I have a friend called Paul, and my nan used to call him, "Oh, he's your Jamie," because my cousin had a friend called Jamie that had been grown up with our family. So the way that this stays that modern family and the trust and the regret and the remorse and the resentment of all that, that person could piss you so much you hate them for 3 months, but then you always end up coming back together.
Yeah.
And the complications of that were portrayed. This could have been just a perfect familial drama if you took the supernatural out of it. And I wanted to make a very specific point because I've seen two films that have done this recently, this and Barbie, whereby we have Zoe Terakis and we had Harry Neff in Barbie, who was male transitioned to female, so the opposite way around, if I got the first one wrong. They do not, in either of these films, make a point of it. These are just actors playing a role in the way that Harry Neff was, or Hari or Hurry Neff was playing a female in Barbie. They don't play it for impact, just a female Barbie. And in the way that Zoe Terakis was a male in Talk to Me, they don't make an issue of it. It's simply a male actor playing a male role. And I can't give plaudits enough for that because this is what we need. It has been far too long that Hollywood have made a point of making trans actors a gimmick and almost for their own,
to pat themselves in the back, like kind of like
exactly, yeah, for their own almost like the gentrification of trans, and we're a part of it, sort of thing.
yeah, totally. I didn't even know that, dude. Which character in Talk to Me is it?
It's one of the abos, not the big abo, but the shorter ones, the short and stocky one.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was a great performance.
Oh, brilliant,
That
brilliant.
that was great acting, I thought. That felt real to me. Those two, the way they interacted and like how they were the sort of leaders, but also like very snarky and like kind of
Yeah,
shit talking people. And I just thought it was great. It
yeah.
was like it rang very true to me.
And also, because when you're on the edge of that kind of high school echelons of popularity, there was the performative image of it in the big party, but then also all these people have in that group have their own dissidents, they have their own hierarchy of power as well within it. And when it narrowed from the big party to the little party, and the amount of times that I've been at after parties in my heyday in the noughties where, you know, there was almost kind of like local celebrities, if you know what I mean, because they were the
Yeah.
best looking. They're always in the right places. You end up in a house party with them, and then you realize, oh shit, these people just look like the rest of us people that aren't as good looking. Like they have their same struggles. Like it's, and I like the way that when it was localized, and in actual fact, in the same way that it was quite invitational to the other characters. You know, you're here with us. Let's just fucking get on with it and have a blast. When the first horrific turn occurred, the first horrific twist occurred, it was almost like a drug, wasn't it? It was like they were just doing
Yeah.
like lines of coke, and they were just passing around the coke, and then as opposed to it being like a one and done at a party to show it and then take it home. So
Yeah.
basically, that there was a literal hand that's come from like
Yep.
a mystic kind of thing, and it's been concealed in porcelain. And if you hold it and you say, "Talk to me," it becomes an image of a specter of a dead person.
Mhm.
And then if you say, what do they say? Like, I allow you in or something like that.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you become possessed, but you can only do it for 90 seconds. So otherwise, bad things happen, right? And Mia, the main character, when her best friend's younger brother, who's just like, well, if you don't take me along to the party, then I'm going to tell your mother that of the shit that I know. So he gets
Yeah.
tagged along, and then they've all done it. And there's this great montage, just like a training montage in a Rocky film of them all doing it. It's quite comedic in the way that it's slotted
Yeah.
together. And they're all
Yeah.
doing it. And then it goes like shit. Oh, everybody like sitting back, like having a drink, like, wow, this is wild. And the little boy comes up. Well, not little boy, he's like 12 or like 13, 14. And he goes,
Yeah.
I want to go. And his sister's like, no fucking way.
Yep.
So they say, okay, you can't do it for 90 seconds, but we'll allow you to do it for 50. But the twist on it is the demons, and this is spoiler alert, by the way. I mean, actually, this is a question for you, but the demon that at least presents itself is Mia's mother, who may or may not have committed suicide. So she's like, no, keep him on, keep him on, keep him on. And they're like, oh shit, it's gone on too long. So because he's younger, he's weaker. Because you're emotionally and socially weaker when you're younger. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's literally all hell breaks loose. The question to come from that, Tim, is
Yeah.
do you think the vision of Mia's mother was it all genuine, or was it contemporaneously genuine, but it was also evil because she is in the bounds of hell, or whatever that realm is called in this film? Or do you think it was completely a veil, a shroud worn by the evil to trick them?
You see, this is a great question because the film does not answer the question it
I
poses.
love that about it. I love it about it.
I think that it is not genuinely her. I think that it was a veiled demon. I thought it was a veiled demon the entire time. I didn't catch this. I think there's something I missed in the beginning because I caught it later on where somebody reminded one other character that, hey, one of the characters said, I heard that the ghost or whatever can take any form. And so I guess they must have said that in the beginning and I missed it. But I felt like the whole time it was a shrouded demon. Now, on the other hand, I don't know whether each person who grabs the hand gets a unique entry from a different spirit. I guess yes. And that particular one just is able to hold on. The brother holds onto the hand too long, so that one stays. You know what I mean? But I thought it was like a truly an evil demon that was manipulating everyone.
Oh, good grief. There's so many. When I saw this, I thought to myself, I don't know how much there is to talk about because it's just a fucking good film. But
Mm-hmm.
hearing you speak, I'm just filled with questions or things that I've noticed. And the first thing is that there is no explanation to the MacGuffin. There is no explanation to the hand. I know most bad, not bad, let's say lesser adopted stories would have made this 2 hours and there would have been a flashback scene and they would have gone and found the guy that sold them the Mowgli to find out how to defeat the gremlins. And there would have been that whole, but it just trusted the audience. Yep, this is it. We don't need to give it a backstory. And in actual fact, that just added to this, the first minute to the 90th minute, this tension stack that just continued to grow. And it wasn't the, please just look around the corner, please just open the cupboard. It was because you didn't know the reasons why. You didn't know what the parameters were for the evil. You didn't know whether it could cross into the physical, whether it was metaphysical, whether it was just spiritual, whether it was just demonic. And because of that, you never knew what the extent of the power was. There's a part of the film where, let me see if I can find the young man's name. Well, there's only one here without a picture, so I imagine it's Riley, Joe Bird. And he's the one that holds on to it too long because Mia wants to
Yeah.
speak to her mum longer, and he becomes possessed. And the only real visceral violence is when the demon is in control of him and he completely makes him self-harm. He's smashing his head. Oh wow, it was truly horrific. And
Yeah.
there's a scene whereby Mia realizes that she has a untold link to it beyond anybody else. She realizes she has to go into the thing. And it's not like, I don't want to give the wrong impression because this is what makes it work so well, that she doesn't then go into like this dream world, into the quantum realm to solve the problem.
Yeah.
But she goes into it, and there's this little girl, and instead of, oh my God, I've got tingles, instead of Mia saying, I allow you in, or whatever it is, the little girl says, I allow you in. And that scene, like, I can't visualize it because it was edited so well. Shit. This film could be the start, if it's done in any way, shape, or form close to the brilliance of this. This is almost a like solar center to a
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
whole expansion. And the beauty of it as well, it doesn't try and solve the problems for you. It, like what we said with bodies with Gen Z and that sort of thing, it felt like it was invitational. We were allowed
Mhm.
into the situation, and we had the same confusion and the same doubt and the same call to action that the characters did. The ending, oh my
Yeah.
word. Oh my word. Oh my word.
So perfect.
It's perfect. It's perfect because I'm thinking there is going to have to be like an end scene where there is like a spectral or demonic confrontation direct, but it's not. She is taking the little brother, and he's wheeling, who is fucked up. Like his
Yeah.
face is fucked. Does he pull his eye out, or do they manage to? I think he pulls his eye
I
out.
think they save it. He attempts to during when he's possessed, but I think
Yeah.
they end up like
Oh
knocking his hand
wow.
away from his face. But yeah.
It was fucking brutal, and he is fucked up USA. Do you know what I mean?
Oh
Like
my God.
Amir thinks that the only way to end his suffering, which calls back to the opening scene with the kangaroo that's hit by a car,
Oh man.
and she
Oh
can't
yeah.
put the kangaroo out of its misery in the very opening scene, but now she has to put him out of his misery, and that's a way to make his soul rest and take him out of the hands of the demonic entities. Oh my word! She's pushing him to the freeway, and the young man's sister is chasing, and you don't really see what happens. You just hear the commotion of a vehicular incident,
Yeah.
and you see her walking away in shock. But then it goes black, and you see a hand, and her hand's bent out of shape, and it becomes very clear that she was pushed away from maybe the wheelchair that was, and she's the one that's been thrown into traffic. And in actual fact, she is the one that's deceased. And
Yeah.
then very quickly, it does not fuck about. And this again is just in tribute to how well this film is executed. It doesn't give you long enough to pause until she sees the hand that they've been using in the very distant foreground, and she's the background. And then all of a sudden, she gets pulled into another teenager's party as the deceased entity. And it does
Yeah.
not let you think about it long enough before it fades to black, and that's the end of the film.
Totally.
Oh my God, Tim. It was
Yeah.
just so. And this, I think this is what you get from having two YouTubers. Do you know what I mean? Because of that, it's not like instant gratification in a slight to the process, but it is the acquirement of knowledge of how to get instantaneous effect from how to produce a film.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It was a perfect ending.
Perfect.
And it raises lots of questions about what was really on the other side.
Yeah, yeah.
Are there occasionally, because she's obviously like not a demonic figure. So like
Yeah.
in that montage where they're all like getting high off of holding the hand and being possessed, like, there's
Yeah,
got to
yeah.
be just puzzled. It harkens back to like how puzzled the spirits are when they appear. Like they're as shocked as like the living kid is to be
Yeah,
there.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
like that first woman, she's just like, what the fuck? When she's all fucked up, like the first one that shows up,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
can tell
yeah.
she's as puzzled as the kid is. And so you can see like that all, it's a callback to all that. It's very, 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 very well done. Yeah, so excellent.
You're just excellent. Here's the benchmark of a film. If you're more excited after watching it than before it, that's a good film.
Yeah. I really have no complaint. Like, I have nothing to like to critique
No, I don't
really at
at
all.
all. No.
Every story beat works. There's nothing wasted. Every choice works. You
Yeah.
know, it's great, and the acting
It,
is superb.
it was
All the
economic as
characters.
well, wasn't it? It felt like a
Yeah,
longer film than it was.
yeah.
Would you want to see another film in this?
Hell yeah, dude. I would definitely see another film in this. I mean, I'd be worried that it wouldn't be as good, but we
Mm,
always have this one. There's something to be said for making a movie as scary as this one was without
mm,
jump scares. Like, that is a real achievement. There's no fake scares in this. It's like
mm.
real, true horror, like horror. It's horrible what happens.
And there's no monster.
Yeah,
I mean, at one point towards the end, there was definitely a scene where you could sort of quid pro quo a monster.
yeah,
But even then, you kind of look at Mia's character and you go, is she just too fucked up by what she's seen? And has she actually killed her father?
yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Totally.
And there is that edge of uncertainty throughout the film that because it doesn't reveal everything, because it's not in a rush to explain everything, that uncertainty is what keeps this film like buoyed the whole. And when I say like the whole way through, I mean every minute of it. There is no minute whereby it is not purposefully executed, and it isn't reliant. That's what I would say. The film isn't reliant.
I loved too that you were talking about earlier about how petty grievances and hierarchies amongst the kids. It felt in that way just like bodies, where like so much of the propulsion of the movie is about inter-group conflicts. Same
Mm,
here. It's like the little boy, like he sees the kid who ultimately gets fucked badly. Part of it is like he sees these other kids, like these bigger kids doing it, and like it
mm,
looks so fun. But also, it's like I need to prove myself. Also, he plays off of his other friend who's like kind of a dick to him the whole time, and he like wants
mm,
to like show how he's a big kid too. He can
mm.
handle it. There's all sorts of little motivations that ring so true to real
Yeah.
life.
And when he had his closest friend in the opening scene and he's trying to get him to smoke, he's like, come on, just fucking smoke for God's sake. What's it going to do
Yeah,
to you? I mean, does it even give you cancer the first time you do it? And he's like, no, no. And then Mia picks him up because his sister's forgotten. So you
yeah,
establish that relationship immediately. And at that point, you see that he isn't going to be peer pressured and he'd rather look foolish in front of his friend, his best friend,
yeah,
possibly his only friend. But then when he's with the cooler older kids. And let's not
yeah,
fuck about. These are, and it's not the Hollywood cool kids where everyone's beautiful. It's not. The cool kids in real life are the ones that have the most experience at that age. Whether they go
yeah,
to parties, whether they drink, whether they smoke, whether they do drugs, whether they've had sex.
yeah,
And that generally isn't the best looking people. It is the coolest group. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
Like
yeah,
there's
yeah,
almost those. Well, let's say there's always two conflicting engagements, and the cool kids, the best looking ones, are probably usually more. And again, stereotyping, but they're the prim and proper, best looking, most successful. But then you have the actual cool kids, and when
yeah,
he's introduced to that, he's like, "I want to do it."
totally.
Yeah, yeah, it's just
Yeah,
it's a wonderful film, and so it's a very linear story, but at the same time, it has a multiplexity to it that is,
yeah,
and without all the fancy words and all the constructive criticism and everything, I just fucking loved it. I
yeah. It's a
loved
great
it.
time. Yeah. It's just it is a great time.
Yeah.
Uh,
So to wrap it up, Tim, there's no point in asking us whether or not we'd recommend somebody to go to see this because that's our barometer as usual for the new guests. We say you can't 7 out of 10 go to watch something. So the only barometer we do is would you recommend somebody see it or not? So I think unanimously we would say
oh
go
yeah,
and watch it and as soon as possible. However,
totally.
Tim, I have said earlier in this episode that it is in my current top 3 films. Now, I'm not going to be as garrulous as to ask you if it's in your top 3. However, come March next year, when we're doing our top 20 films of the Oscar period, can you see this being in your top 20? And where currently would you expect it to be?
Oh, I could easily see it in my top 20. I would say right now, I'd have to think about it. I don't remember. I mean, I have to go through my list and just see what I've seen, but it strikes me right now, it's certainly in the top five. I really
Yeah.
can't think of anything I liked better this year, I don't think. But I'd have to think about it. I mean, it's been like we're in July now, so I'm not sure. But yeah, it definitely stands out as one of the best movies of the year by far.
Yeah, and let's face it, I didn't eat at this point of last year. Let's even say at Christmas time of last year, I didn't know that After Sun and To Leslie were even films.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, I think this fills that bodies, that little slot.
Yep.
Oh, this film was on the front cover of Fangoria this week.
Oh, okay.
And they chose the cover image was a very, very monumental, but also momentary image. And they showed on the front cover when the young man was being tortured and pulled apart with all the hands over him.
Oh yeah.
It's fucking ghastly, dude.
Oh, that was like that was visceral.
So, would you like to say goodbye to Brussels, to
Council Bluffs,
Ashburn,
Ashburn.
Council Bluffs has disappeared, so fuck that guy.
Oh man.
Although we've had another one, and that is Boardman OR. What's OR?
Oregon.
Oregon. Yeah, so Boardman OR, who has listened again, like I think they just fell asleep with it. So thank you very much for listening to us, Brussels and Ashburn.
Ashburn. Yeah. All right.
And everybody else, if this is your first time listening to us, thank you very much. And thank you for listening to us to the end. And thank you for listening to the end. Tim, would you like to say goodbye?
Yeah, dude, it's goodbye. And listeners, just give us a few listens and you can also get shouted out by your hometown. So just keep that in mind.
Hundy Pundy. And that leaves me half of your regular co-hosting team, Matt. And thank you very much for listening to us. And as always, that leaves me with one more thing to say. We have been, and this is the end. I didn't even think about that outro when we got the name, but it works so well.
Yeah, it does. It does.